Good morning, my dear students. Today I am here to start the new chapter, that is your chapter number 5, pollination and fertilization. So now first we will see the definition of pollination. Pollination simply means the transfer of pollen grains from the anther to the stigma of the flower. That is called pollination. Only transferring is responsible. Okay, once the transfer is over, means pollination is over. Then comes fertilization. Fertilization is the process in which the male and the female gametes combine among themselves, which both of them are haploid, means single set of chromosomes are present in the pollen grains, and ovary also, means eggs also. So the haploid gametes fuse among themselves and it gives rise to the zygote. Okay, this is called fertilization. So here we will see the advantages and disadvantages of pollination. What is that? So the pollination is of two types. First is self pollination and another one is cross pollination. So in case of self pollination, what is happening? In case of self pollination, there is only one plant. Okay, the pollen grains from one flower, they are landing upon the stigma of the same or another flower of the same plant. Remember this thing, the plant should be only one. In case of self pollination, again I am telling, the transfer of pollen grains from stigma to the transfer of pollen grains to the stigma of the same flower or the another flower of the same plant, then it is called self pollination. In case of cross pollination, what is happening? There will be two plants and the pollen grains from one plant will be landing on the stigma of the another flower of different plant. Okay, but should belong to the same species, then it is called cross pollination. Okay, so the main thing is clear. In case of self pollination, only one plant is there. In case of cross pollination, there will be two plants. Okay, now coming on to the advantages of self pollination. So here you see advantages. First one is purity is maintained, means the original species, the characteristics, the traits, they are maintained. So because they are not belonging to different plant, that's why all the characters are same. So the purity is maintained, means original characters are retained in the offspring also. Next is there is no wastage of pollen grains, because all the pollen grains that will fall on the same flower or the another flower, there is less chances of wastage or no wastage of the pollen grains. Then there is less chance of failure of pollination. So pollination process will be not failed, the chances are less. Next is the nectar and the scent should not be present. If it is not present also, then also pollination can happen. This is the advantage. But for another part, cross pollination, this is very important. Scent and nectar should be there. If it is not there, then the insect will not come on that flower, because all of you know the insects come only to suck the nectar. Okay, and if nectar is not present, the insect will not come and the pollination will not occur. In case of cross pollination, I am telling you. But this is self pollination. Without the scent also it can be done. Next, coming on to disadvantages. Some disadvantages are also there of the self pollination. So first disadvantage is weakening of variety. So the variety whatever is present, the plant species, the variety, the traits, characteristics. So time to time or in the generation after generation, what will happen? The variety will be of poor quality. Okay, then weakening of that characteristics. So if that characteristic will not be strong enough to cope up with the situation. Second is poor quality. So if regularly the self pollination is occurring, the quality, the variety of the crops, quality of the seeds, this all will hamper in the coming generations, and it will be of poor quality. It can be of after so many years, it can be of no use also. Then cannot eliminate the defective characteristics. Whatever the defective characteristics or the genetic characteristics are there, if suppose it is defective, some diseases are there, some some, especially the diseases, if it is present in the generation, particular generation, it will be carried to the next generation also in case of self-pollination, because self-pollination, it is responsible for carrying all the traits, especially 100% generally, to the offsprings, because there is no cross-pollination, no means gene interaction between the two species are present. No interaction is there, that's why the whole characteristic will be transferred to the next generation. Then production of new species or variety. There is less production or no, there will be new variety production of the species will not be present, because they are only carrying the same characteristic. That's why no production of new species will be present. So these are some of the advantages and disadvantages of the self and cross pollination. Okay, then coming on to the next section, that is your nature also favors the cross pollination. So first thing is nature, it is also favoring the cross pollination, because it also, nature also knows that this can be the disadvantage, and after some time the quality of the seed, fruit, etc. will be decreased. That's why nature also favors the cross pollination. So in case of cross pollination, what all things are happening, you see, this first is unisexuality. So unisexuality means the flowers which are unisexual means one will be carrying the androecium, one will be carrying the gynoecium. Means suppose in one plant there is stamen and another plant there is pistil. Okay, so there are many flowers which are unisexual. So this is the first criteria for cross pollination. Next is, you can see here, it is written dichogamy. So in case of dichogamy, what is happening? In bisexual flowers, the stamens, carpels do not mature at the same time. This is called dichogamy. So what is the advantage of that? If it is not maturing at the same time, then that will be responsible for cross pollination. So if both of them are maturing, androecium and gynoecium, at the same time, then only there is chances of self-pollination. So if they are not maturing at the same time, then and there only 100% chances there that their cross-pollination will occur. Okay, next, that dichogamy is of two types, protandry and protogyny. Protandry means andro, and andry word means has come from andro. Andro means male, androecium. Okay, it means the androecium will be matured earlier than the gynoecium. Okay, example, you see sunflower, jasmine will happen, and in protogyny the opposite will happen. The gynoecium will be maturing earlier than the stamens. Okay, so this is the cross pollination advantage. Next is self sterility. Self sterility means the stigma receives the pollen grains from the anther of the same flower, then the pollen fails to undergo further growth. In that particular case, what is happening? This self sterility, when the stigma receives the pollen from the same plant, same flower, then in that case the pollen fails to undergo the further growth. So it is not favorable. Next is heterostyly. Heterostyly, what is happening? Hetero means different, means there will be a difference in the length of the androecium and gynoecium. Here you see, condition of having styles of different length. There will be styles of different length, which is responsible for the in the different flowers of different plant, and it reduces the self pollination. Okay, means the styles of they are having of different length relative to the stamens. Okay, means in the male and the female, that part there will be difference in the length, due to which the pollination do not occur. Example, oxalis, and self fertilization will be prohibited. Then hercogamy, in these flowers means homogamous, where there are adaptation due to which the self pollination cannot occur. Example is given in caryophyllaceous flowers. The stigma projects beyond the stamen, means the stigma goes above the stamen, so that the pollens do not fall on the stigma. Okay, this is the hercogamy. Okay, homogamous flowers means same type of gametes which are carrying. Okay, So in this, these are the advantage of pollination, disadvantage of self pollination, cross pollination. So we can now, in the next class we will see what are the different mechanism of the cross pollination. Till then, take care of yourself. Thank you.